Hello, everybody. Welcome to an emergency edition of the PHLY Eagles podcast presented to you by Bet365 and Ashley Furniture. I am your host, EJ Smith. The Wolf is out today, but I'm joined by Fran Duffy to discuss some breaking Eagles news. ZaDarius Smith has retired, the 33-year-old edge rusher who leads his position group in sacks. The Eagles, what are we going to do, Fran?
I just thought the team played Thursday night football. I can have all Monday to do some guys, watch some college football, watch some college prospects, and it would be, nice and easy. But no, this team can't be normal even for an extended bye week.
Yeah, there's really just never a normal moment in Eagles history, and it feels like this has happened a couple of times. Like Miles Jack last year, kind of feels like sometimes guys show up toward the end of their careers and just call it a career. But yeah, this definitely came out of nowhere, came out of the blue. It's my understanding that ZaDarius Smith informed the Eagles this morning of his intention to retire. Obviously, he posted on Instagram probably about 20-30 minutes ago. So yeah, really out of the blue and surprising in the sense like I was wondering if it was like an injury, something like that. But my understanding is it's not injury related either. It just is kind of a personal decision that he made. So it leaves the Eagles really thin at edge rusher. And again, just completely out of the blue headed into this week.
And I have no sourcing on this, like nothing. To me, this is how this reads. This is obviously ZaDarius Smith, signs with the team once the season starts. He doesn't have the off-season program, doesn't have training camp. You're on the brink at that point of retirement. You can kind of like taste it. Your body can feel it. And you go through a few games and you're in the rhythm, but then you have that Thursday night game.
Yeah, the short week.
You had the short week, and then you had that you had time off. And your body's like, oh yeah, like this is what I want. My gut tells me that this is not speaking to like the health of the locker room and things like that. Now, it doesn't paint a pretty picture. My guess is if things were like, really pointed, like, sky high, and vibes were great, that he'd be like, oh, like I'm going to try and gut this out. But I don't think this is like, oh, everybody abandoned ship kind of thing. I think that this is an older player who was on the brink of retirement, whose body just kind of told him like the time is now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that this is probably more, we should view this more in a vacuum. It is like, we've all had those Monday mornings, especially it's a dreary morning in Philadelphia. You could sense, like, you could feel for somebody waking up this morning and going, I don't want to get started on this work week. So, if it's a situation you find yourself in, I guess you can't begrudge a guy for feeling that way. But at the same time, it really does leave them depleted on the edge. I mean, we were talking about the need for them to reinforce that position before ZaDarius Smith announced his retirement. It felt like they needed, somebody even before that. So now with him, not a part of that position group, you've got obviously Nolan Smith on injured reserve. You've got Jalix Hunt. You've got Patrick Johnson. You've got Josh Uche and Azeez Ojulari. Those are your four healthy edge rushers on the active roster right now. So where do you think this leaves them in terms of a roster building standpoint in the next, I guess, couple weeks before the trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that ZaDarius Smith, while he wasn't playing in base defense, he at least was giving you a player that was giving you like every down type of skill set. And like, hey, like you could put him out there, and even if he's not impacting the game the way he was 2-3 years ago, even last season, he was giving Detroit some quality snaps. He at least was like out there, like playing with a pulse. And right now, like, now you're hoping that Azeez Ojulari, who gave them nice snaps against Denver, and it flashed a little bit, like, all right, he's going to have to ascend into that role unless they go out and make a deal. And now the question is does Howie Roseman, does the Eagles front office feel added urgency to go out and make some kind of a trade? The question is now is like, it doesn't necessarily even need to be an impact player. Like, can you go and trade for someone's fourth defensive end or fourth outside linebacker that you feel can come in and give you ZaDarius Smith level impact, like just someone to get you by
Yeah.
you might feel the need to make a move like that.
Yeah, it almost feels like two separate things. Like they have the need for impact at that position, a difference maker, but they also just need competency. You know, they need snaps. So I think the next question, the natural question that we'd ask, or a lot of people will ask, is that Brandon Graham? You know, do you think that the possibility for him to come out of retirement is actually, you know, a solution here, or do you think that that is maybe too far gone?
Yeah, I mean, listening to when BG has been asked about that
Yeah,
on the BG Unblocked with Bo Wolf, or even when I know he was on with Cuz a couple weeks ago, and BG really quickly shut that down. We'll see. I guess time will tell on that one. I'm sure that there will be discussions had when it comes to that. But yeah, they're going to have to kind of uncover a lot, talk about different rocks that they can uncover here, and just say like, all right, like where can we, have these where can we find this kind of value? Every team, when it comes to like the pro market, the veteran free agent market, you have what's called a short list, where it's like, okay, like who are
yeah,
the vets that are on the street that we can call right now to come in and work out, and just say like, all right, like what kind of juice is left in this guy's legs. I don't think that BG is this. I think BG is, they kind of, what you're getting with Brandon
sure,
Graham.
yeah.
I don't think that they're going to need to bring him in for that standpoint, but there are going to be other players where, like, let's get this guy on the phone and let's get him into NovaCare and work him out in the practice bubble Tuesday morning.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just like thinking about ZaDarius Smith. Like I remember I asked him after the after he signed, you know, after week one, like, did you think that your career was over, you know, as you waited to sign? And it's interesting looking back at it because he really was like defiant about that. Like, oh no, I knew I was gonna play. I knew I'd have another opportunity. I remember him talking about the fact that he only played 1 year of high school football and how he felt quote unquote young in the game. And this is like 2 months ago, less than honestly, like a month ago, not even two
Yep.
months ago. Like, it's crazy how much things have changed. And like, maybe, you know, again, I think that it probably is just as simple as like, you know, made it through that short week, had the mini buy, probably informed his decision. But maybe there is something to like, he signed with this Eagles team really having high expectations of a Super Bowl run, and like maybe has a little bit less of confidence about that, as most people would at this point. You know, I know I'm not saying like, you know, it's like time to panic or anything with when it comes to the Eagles, but just in general, like he maybe didn't sign up for what he thought. Maybe he felt like it wasn't quite what he signed up for. I don't know. It's just it's so strange. It's like, you know, I at first I thought when I saw the post I thought it was fake. You know, I figured like, is this really ZaDarius Smith? Did he get hacked or anything like that? But yeah, no, it's I guess I'm just processing it in real time, just like everybody else.
And then the other aspect is like, all right, they've got some young players in the pipeline. Like, does Antoine Power Island, like, is it better to throw him into the wolves, or they kind of
Yeah.
throw him into the fire rather, and see like, all right, like how does he do versus signing? I'm trying to think of like who the best available 35-year-old pass rusher is that's on the free agent market. And that's why I like the trade that we keep going back to like the Tank Bigsby trade, but you gave up
Yeah.
2 day 3 picks for a guy
No, yeah,
that's
it's a great
has
point.
been like an average kick returner. Now you're dipping further into those coffers for future, the future draft capital to say like, all right, now we need to make a trade like this to try and bring in some edge depth. It's going to be harder to do.
Do you think you think the Trey Hendrickson price just went up a little bit?
I don't know if the price went up. My guess is the price has stayed pretty static.
Yeah, the Eagles'
But
willingness
from
to
what I
meet that
understand, like
price.
the Bengals are like I don't want to say like a tough organization to deal with, but it's like no, they're
Hmm.
not like the most fun organization to try and make trades with. So I don't think that the price has necessarily changed there. I think it's more, like are you going to go and pay that capital for Trey Hendrickson? I just don't know that this team is in a position to do that. Like if you're Howie Roseman and with what you've seen of this offense and this team, like, well, what do you think the ceiling is? Do you want to overinvest in an older pass rusher to come in and try and make this run here with this group?
Yeah, no, it's fair, but I don't know. I don't know. You probably have a better sense of like who else is out there that would be a potential. I mean, either like we talked about, like somebody who's at least competent filling snaps, or you know, I think even in a best case scenario, like somebody in a Hendrickson mold of like a potential impact player. Like, does anybody stand out to you in that crop of guys who could move before the deadline?
I think a player that I've kind of had my eye on over the last few months, whenever we've had this discussion, was Trayvon Walker, just because it was a former
Yeah,
high pick. But Jacksonville's not in position where they're going to try and trade it, with how they've started their season. I know that they lost yesterday, but with the way that they've played so far, like, I don't think that they'd be willing to part with a piece like that. So I think at the end of the day, you're looking for teams that have not won a ton of games, where the upside's not super high, someone on a contract year. And we talked about this last week, though. Tampa Bay's looking for pass rush. San Francisco's looking for pass rush. Washington's looking for pass rush. Dallas looking for pass rush. There's all these teams in the NFC all looking for the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, the Trayvon Walker one, I really do. It feels like the type of player the Eagles would trade for, but you're right. The Jaguars coming out and playing so well early in the season probably takes that one off of the table. The other one I wanted to ask you about, we have been pretty steadfast about, like, Jahad Campbell and Zach Bond are off-ball linebackers. They're playing at a really high level. Does this change the calculus at all for you? I don't know if it changes it for me, but moving Jahad Campbell at least part-time, like getting him to fill some of those snaps on the edge, is that something you'd sign up for, in light of this?
With Nakobe Dean being back, maybe that's something where they could potentially look into. I just don't. I mean, really, it ultimately would come down to, what does Vic Fangio think about Jahad Campbell's long-term future? What does Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, like, what do they think Jahad Campbell's long-term future is? If they think he is a player that they want to incorporate as an edge rusher, like, not just like, off sim pressures and mug him up, but like actually, like, hey, they go 4 down, he's going to line up on the edge, then yeah, then you start mixing him in. If you don't think that that's something that's in the long-term plans, then I don't think you want to try and do that. I think if you think that he is a long-term off-ball inside linebacker, I wouldn't mess with it. I would, and I don't think you want to take Bond and move him there either, because he's one of your best players on defense. I think that makes the whole unit worse. So I don't think that you would want to do that unless you think that Jahad Campbell, that's going to be part of his future plan.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Campbell at the very least. I still probably lean toward, like, we kind of saw what it looked like when they threw too much at him at once during training camp, and it feels like if he's playing well at off-ball linebacker, it's almost like leave well enough alone. But I don't know if they were different structurally on defense, like if they were more of like a 3-3-5, or even like you see, I know the broadcast last night during Sunday Night Football was talking about how Steve Spagnuolo has these 3 linebacker looks, and he really leans into that. Like, we just don't quite see that with Vic Fangio. So I don't know. It's harder to justify, but it is getting more and more daunting at this position. So yeah. Anyway, did we hit on anything else you wanted to hit on with this? I know I gotta get to the studio. So I know
you're getting up against it. I think that we hit on basically everything, and I'm sure we'll talk further, later on this week. And I know you'll be hitting on it here at 2:00. But yeah, I think we've hit on everything. I mean, when you look at like the vets that are out there, young players in the pipeline, I don't know if they've got a ton of great options unless they start getting into like the high priced, the high priced pro market, which, as we mentioned, like, everybody's trying to fish in that pond.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you joining me, Fran. And again, held it down without Bo today. Maybe he's going to retire. I mean, at this rate, maybe we'll have a retirement every day of the week or something like that. But anyway,
further evidence that you believe he is washed.
I mean, listen, I woke up this morning and felt quite like ZaDarius Smith. It was dreary outside. It's like, man, I could take it easy today if I could. So anyway, me and Handsome Rich will be on at 2:00 to discuss this further. And thanks for joining us on the PHLY Eagles podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.